The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
I find it ironic that the gentleman on the other side of the aisle is demanding to know what the power sharing structure is here in the House, when in fact he'll spend the rest of his time arguing that we should give our power to the White House, that the administrative branch should be making law. In fact, major regulations that have more than $100 million of impact. So I would say to the gentleman on the other side of the aisle that if he's wondering about the power sharing arrangement, then he should seek to put some power here in the House, restore the power that the founders gave us in Article 1 of the Constitution. And with respect to the solution to the tragic school shootings, some states have taken it upon themselves to allow qualified teachers and staff to carry firearms. Imagine that. They're protected. The children are protected by firearms the same way we're protected here. Why do we sit here and say, oh, we got to do something, and when we sit behind protection and the children aren't? I would encourage the other side of the aisle to co-sponsor my bill to change the default setting here in this country. And the default setting was set by the Gun-Free School Zone Act, which makes it illegal to even be near a school and have a firearm, which makes it harder for states to set policies that would save our children. And all it does is make felons of law-abiding gun owners. So I would encourage them to look at a real solution, because you can ban a pistol brace. You're not going to stop a single mass public shooting. Most of these mass public shootings occur with a pistol, not with a pistol with a brace on it, or not with a short-barreled rifle, as they would say, or not with a rifle, an assault rifle they might call it. So they can start banning these pieces of plastic, like the Biden administration is doing, and then they could move on to banning magazines, or they could do, as the ranking member of Judiciary admitted to me last night, he'd like to ban all the AR-15s. Or they could ban handguns, and then they'll get down to shotguns. The reality is you can't stop these tragedies with a ban. You have to change the way we protect our children. This pistol brace rule that's been promulgated by the administrative branch will cause, already has caused, they just haven't been arrested, will cause tens of millions of Americans to be felons. That happened on June 1st. Time is up. You're done. You're now a felon if you own one of these braces on your firearm. And whether you own one or not, most Americans understand what's happening here. Our system of lawmaking has been turned on its head. Even more fundamental than that, people were told it was legal by the ATF. The technical division of the ATF reviewed the prototypes of these pistol braces in 2012 when Obama was the president. And what did Obama's ATF say to Mr. Bosco, the inventor of the pistol brace? You're asking if the addition of this sample, a buffer tube forearm brace, would convert a firearm in a manner that would cause it to be classified as a rifle, and thus a firearm regulated by the National Firearms Act. Based on our evaluation, our technical department finds that the submitted forearm brace, when attached to a firearm, does not convert that weapon to be fired from the shoulder and would not alter the classification of a pistol or other firearm. Such a firearm would not be subject to NFA controls. This is a letter on ATF letterhead, in fact, the Department of Justice letterhead, dated November 26, 2012, that millions of Americans relied on, that many entrepreneurs relied on. And now what happens? The rug's getting pulled out from under them, not by the legislative branch. By the way, we could have repealed this here. The Democrats controlled both chambers. They could have passed a legislative ban on these braces. They didn't do it. Why didn't they do it? Maybe it's because they're accountable. They're accountable to the people, unlike these bureaucrats. Nobody's going to lose an election at the ATF for promulgating this rule, but the people here are scared. The people in this chamber are scared to do their jobs, and the people in the Senate are scared to do their jobs, so they'd much prefer the administration do our jobs. And what have they done? They've said now the penalty, get this, what is the penalty for owning this piece of plastic on a firearm that's connected to a pistol? I asked the ranking member of Judiciary last night in the Rules Committee. He did not know. It turns out it's $250,000 and 10 years in prison. Is that the appropriate sentence for somebody who followed the law for 10 years, followed ATF guidance that was given during the Obama administration, and now doesn't even know they're violating the law? Is 10 years and $250,000 appropriate? I don't think so. But they relied on this letter. Now, to another part of the pistol brace rule. The ranking member of Judiciary and the ATF director, Dettelbach, have both testified incorrectly that you can comply with this pistol brace rule from the ATF by merely separating the firearm from the brace. That is wrong. That's not what the ATF rule says. Why do they say this in testimony? Why did the ranking member of Judiciary say this? Why did the ATF director say this? Because they wanted to sound reasonable. That might seem like a reasonable solution, but it's not the solution that the ATF has put into law. Again, this isn't a fine. This isn't like saying, well, the EPA decided that we have too much sulfur dioxide in the atmosphere, so we're going to reduce emissions, and we're going to set the sulfur dioxide emissions at a different level, and that you can be fined if you don't comply and you're a corporation. This is not a civil infraction. This is a criminal infraction that will put millions of Americans in jeopardy of going to jail. For what? A piece of plastic? Does it make the firearm more dangerous? No. Does it make the firearm more concealable? No. Does it make the firearm more deadly? No. And then I hear from the other side of the aisle, oh, well, we're not banning them. Oh, we wouldn't ban them. Really? You're telling people in the United States you have to register them. Well, as short-barreled rifles. Guess what? That's illegal in 13 states. 36% of Americans live in those 13 states where you can't even comply. You cannot legally comply with the ATF directive to register that pistol with that brace on it as a short-barreled rifle. Compliance is impossible if you want to keep that accessory. So it is a ban. It's a de facto ban, especially on people in those 13 states. But here's what it's really about. They can't ban guns. They would love to, but they can't ban them. They can't do it legislatively. The president came into office and looked at all of the regulations and how could he ban some guns? Well, he found this one here. And how can he get more guns registered? By the way, it's illegal for the administrative branch to create a registry of firearms that are in common circulation here in the United States. That's illegal. They're not allowed to do it in the administrative branch. But what have they done with this pistol brace rule over there that we seek to countermand? They're going to create a registry of millions of Americans who own pistols that happen to have this brace. So I would argue this wasn't just a way to ban guns with certain accessories. It was a way to do something else that's not legal, not authorized by Congress, and that is to require millions of Americans to register. So to close out this pistol brace rule, I want to thank Mr. Clyde for introducing this resolution. It's absolutely necessary. It's very timely. I wish we had got it done before June 1st, because now we've got millions of felons in the United States just waiting to be arrested, don't even know they're not in compliance. And this will do, the ATF rule will do nothing to increase safety. And with that, I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman reserves.